Hi, I'm Judith Durham and you're watching noise11.com.
And we welcome Judith Durham into noise11.com. We've got something pretty exciting to talk about. The album is Climb Every Mountain, which is for the first time on CD, but wow, from the archives, Judith.
It sure is. I'm so thrilled. It's amazing. It's the last one of my solo catalogue that it had never been on CD. So the fans have been waiting for it for quite a long time because, of course, it was first recorded in, 45 years ago or something.
Right, at Abbey Road.
At Abbey Road,
now,
indeed.
Tell me about the experience of going into Abbey Road. It would have been, I think it was October 1970.
Yeah.
And, to put that into a timeline, the Beatles had just broken up.
Yes.
And here you are working in the same environment that they recorded many of their classic albums. What was the mood like in the building?
Well, look, don't forget the Seekers had been recording there for years too. We were always on the ground floor and the Beatles used to go downstairs. You see, they were in the iconic number 2 studio. So, but they used to go in there at night time, and we do, the Seekers would do daytime shows. But for me as a solo artist, it was fantastic because there's a featured track on this album which was hidden for many, many years. It was sort of lost in the archives. And it was a single from early in the 70s, and the big, huge number 1 studio was booked. So it was monstrous. You couldn't see from one end to the other with a 50-piece orchestra and choir. And so I was quite in awe of the whole experience. Yeah, and doing the whole album there, I had Christopher Gunning, who now is a very, very celebrated arranger and orchestrator. And and he's done the music for Poirot and La Vie en Rose. Yeah, so, and I had the wonderful Dudley Moore on for all the sessions.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing, playing piano. So now I feel, my God, how did all this come about?
Yeah, well, Dudley Moore is, I guess, best known as a comedian, but he was really quite a genius of a piano player, wasn't he?
No question about it, yes. He made some fantastic... In fact, when my husband was alive, we went to see Dudley Moore at the Dallas Brooks Hall. Yeah, he was a really fantastic performer and could do shows all, without being the comedian. He didn't have to be that if he'd wanted to just go the path of being the pianist. But I was very privileged because Christopher Gunning, of course, chose Dudley to play piano on all my tracks. So now when I go back down memory lane and I can play my own vinyl, instead of my vinyl, I'm playing my CD copy of Climb Every Mountain album, I'm hearing Dudley's piano, so it's just brilliant.
What about Elton John? I mean, Elton had, I guess, at this point, had his first hit song with Your Song. That was earlier into 1970, and you were in the studio around October 1970. So Your Song must have just come out?
I'm trying to think about Your Song. I don't think he'd had... When I did Let Me Find Love, which of course was an amazing experience for me because it was the first song I'd ever written. And so that was chosen to be released prior to the Climb Every Mountain album coming out. Now, Elton had presented me with Skyline Pigeon to record for my upcoming album for A&M. And I had a feeling, he'd certainly had an album out at that time, but he was still a bit Reg Dwight.
Yeah.
And so my husband pointed him out to me across the studio and said, of course, that's Elton John. He's in Melody Maker this week. He's just now changing his name, to Elton John. And I'm not sure when Your Song actually fitted in to that, process, because of course it was about September that my actual album came out, where the Let Me Find Love tracks were recorded earlier that year.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm very, very privileged, and that he paid such a beautiful compliment to me, just saying how much he'd loved hearing my voice and everything, doing his song, and I feel very, very grateful that this all happened.
Yeah, well, he is quoted on the album. In fact, if I hold it up there, it says, Judith Durham, like Karen Carpenter and Eva Cassidy, possesses the purest voice in popular music. When she recorded one of my songs, I was so flattered and loved her version. She made the song her own.
Oh, that's just fantastic.
Did he recently write that?
When my book, Colours of My Life, which of course Graham Simpson wrote, my biography, it was then that several wonderful people paid tribute to me for the book coming out, and Elton was one, and Dame Edna Everidge, and all sorts of people. So it was actually written where am I? I'm funny with
about
dates.
10 years ago?
10 years ago, yeah, when the book
When was
came
that book,
out.
Graham? Yell it out.
2003.
2003, of course it
Okay.
was, yes. I'm a bit funny with dates since the brain hemorrhage, actually. So every now and then I think, oh, hang on, is it a year or is it a number? So, yeah, no, that's right. So when it came out, that's when he wrote that. So, now he's said it. It's just like, oh, my God, he said this and he must think that. And, of course, I recorded another of his wonderful songs, Mona Lisa's and Mad Hatters, which was
a beautiful song, yeah.
Yes, and I was just so knocked out to have this material.
Yeah.
But I've got some I'm thrilled to revisit all the songs that are on the Climb Every Mountain album. For me now, I can hear these songs in a different light and realise there's quite a philosophy and there's a sort of a calming, soothing kind of atmosphere to some of them. So that has really taken me by surprise, because at that time I was going to other composers and publishers to find me material, because I didn't know I was going to be able to write all my own songs one day. So I was looking for material. Yeah, so thank God, that I had the privileged opportunity so that I did.
You never wrote in the Seekers, did you?
Well, Colours of My Life was the only attempt. When I was very fortunate that David Riley asked me to write songs with him, I didn't know that I had any capability at all. So I sort of said, oh, look, I don't know whether I can be of any use. But we ended up writing 19 songs, and two of those were recorded by the Seekers, one being Colours of My Life, and it's turned out people really love it, and it's been featured on many Seekers albums. But I'd never attempted to write a song at all on my own. I always thought that I'd have to collaborate. And then I went to a meeting about spirituality. This was after I'd met my husband and I'd just gone solo. And I went to this meeting and it was very inspiring. And the next morning I woke up and I had the ideas that the meeting had been discussing, which was looking for love inside your heart, not to try and find it out there, but look inside your heart first. And that's how Let Me Find Love came to be, because the next morning I thought, I wonder if I've heard this song before. And I sang it to my husband and he said, well, we thought, no, maybe it's a new song. So it turned out it was the first song I'd actually written.
Do you write much now?
Yeah, I've written about 300 songs now, including a whole suite of songs about the Australian cities, all the capital cities, the whole of Epiphany album. There's another whole album I've written, so Hold On To Your Dream. And so I often... Some of the jazz albums have got my own compositions, songs like I Want to Dance to Your Music, for instance. Mama's Got the Blues. So about 7, perhaps, trad jazz songs. So all in all, probably about 50 to 60 to 70 songs I've had co-written or contributed to, or they're in the making. So I'm hoping I live long enough to get half of them down. It's a bit of a challenge.
Well, you'd have a real archive of unreleased songs, I would imagine.
That's right, but I know that... even George Harrison, when he died, he had a drawer of unrecorded songs.
Yeah.
So, I guess it's normal when artists are prolific. You just keep going, and then eventually you can't do it anymore for one reason or another. But, I mean, even though I've had the brain hemorrhage, I still seem to be thinking of things, so people can't put me down yet.
How many of the songs on Climb Every Mountain have never had the opportunity to be performed live?
Well, some of them actually were performed in a television show I did. I'm Old-Fashioned, for instance, Kaleidoscope, live. I'm just trying to think. I've certainly performed Skyline Pigeon live, but I haven't had the opportunity. The album wasn't out, so there wasn't a big reason to let the audience hear, because they couldn't have bought it. So... can I have a look at the track list? I've got to prop myself here. Of course, I should borrow your glasses, but I won't.
You won't see much with my glasses, I can tell you.
There he is, I did at the Rio Song Festival, actually. Yes, it was an entry. Of course, it's a Rod McKuen song, the KR Kaleidoscope. Mama Packed a Picnic Tea I've done on television, but again, I don't think people can buy it. Your Heart Is Free, oh gosh, these are marvellous songs. What Could Be a Better Way, Ron and I, of course, composed it, so that's got a happy little... And I've done it in a couple of shows, but not recently, so Skyline Pigeon, of course, goes without saying. Don't Cost Very Much, I've done quite a lot, which is Reverend Thomas Dorsey gospel, beautiful song to sing. I've done that in concert many times. But of course, Climb Every Mountain. I mean, I'm a bit scared to plug Climb Every Mountain too much because it's got a huge high note at the end.
Yeah.
And if I try to do it in concert now, I don't know whether people sort of start clapping before the end in the hope that I don't get challenged to do the high note. But
Was it difficult to do that high note at the time?
no, because I did it in many, many, many shows. But it is pretty high, so I've got to get in practice. Otherwise, we'll be going down the octave, and I'll be challenging the baritones to match me.
Yeah. Now, this was the second album for you.
For A&M, the second A&M album.
Second
yes,
A&M
yes.
album. You'd left the Seekers in 1969.
Yes, I did a Christmas album in between, which was for Christmas with Love, which has recently been reissued. But yes, 69 was the first of the two solo A&M albums that weren't Christmas.
Right.
Yes.
So the last of the Seekers albums would have been in 1968. We got 8 albums deep in.
Yes.
When the final record came around. Gee, we're testing the stats here, aren't we?
Well, you know it better than I do, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think I could rattle it off.
Yeah,
but
true or false, Graham? 8 albums?
No, well, the Seekers broke up in 68. So the last studio album was 67, which was Seen in Green.
Yeah.
And then Live at the Top of the Town came out at the end of 1968.
Right, and then of course there was an album of the Seekers, a compilation, which was in the charts for 2 years, wasn't it?
125 weeks.
Yes, after the Seekers broke up.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to have a Seekers album, and blow me down, it was huge.
Yeah.
But but for me, then my solo career, of course, that was quite an interesting experience for me to work out what sort of music was I going to do as a solo artist. Because I love traditional jazz, but I didn't want to sort of make that my entire life. It was just one of the many things that I loved to do. And at that time, not having written my own stuff and not having realised that I loved the philosophical side of things and the spirituality side of things. So, and plus playing piano was very important to me. So it's been a big learning curve and a big adventure, musically speaking. And that's why it's been so great having the Climb Every Mountain album to come out, because it's helped me revisit and appreciate the scale of everything and the fact that I was working with these marvellous people. So it helped me dig deep as an artist and to develop my vocal skills. And so it's, and it's still, I hope it's still going to be a part of an ongoing journey where I'm discovering more and more things about myself, let alone what the audience may enjoy.
Yeah, sure. You've just done the 50th anniversary, the Jubilee tour.
Yes, the Golden Jubilee, absolutely. 50 years, yes.
Yeah. What does what's the current status for the Seekers now? Do you have plans moving forward?
No, I think we feel that the fans were so delighted that we went around the world. They never expected us to go back to the UK again, and of course that was brilliant to play the Albert Hall. We've just finished New Zealand, and it seems like everybody's happy to say that's the time we should all bring it to an end. The fact that we are all still alive, we're all still in good voice, and but there's no expectation that it would carry on. So, but that's not to say, if there's a 60th possibility coming up, we'll all be there, I imagine. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
But that is quite incredible that you can do a 50th anniversary tour with the original lineup. I mean, the Rolling Stones are out doing the 50th anniversary tour around the world at the moment, but, there's only 3 members left.
That's what people don't realise. Absolutely. We believe we are. I mean, we're waiting to be challenged on it, but we believe that we are the only group out there who are all still alive, let alone capable of doing a recent tour. So it is an incredible... To us, we can't believe it. You'd think one of us would have conked out and gone to the great...
You don't say that out loud, Judith.
But I'm the first to say it. I mean, if anything, I should have. When I had the brain hemorrhage, you'd think I would have gone. But I'm still here. So it gave us the opportunity to see, well, okay, we're all doing it. But it isn't... as an artist, I don't want to keep churning out all the same, obviously thrilling, wonderful hits. The Seekers hits are they'll never, we hope, ever die in people's hearts. But it's musically unchallenging. I want to meet more challenges if I have the opportunity. So Universal have given me that opportunity with the chance to do these albums and put the compilations together and give people pleasure in other ways. I hope it will. I hope people are going to enjoy it very much.
You mentioned the brain hemorrhage there, and having talked to you before that happened and talking to you now, I cannot detect that you've even been sick. I mean, it's been a remarkable covering, hasn't it?
Oh, look, I'm just so grateful. I can't thank the fans enough. They are the ones who gave me the courage. I mean, people like Graham, who of course we've been involving in, and people close to me, family and friends, and the people who work with me. I mean, Marley, without question. You know, I can't underestimate what their contribution has meant to me to give me the courage. But the moment of actually walking on a stage again and waiting to see what's going to happen, will I lose it in the excitement of the moment or whatever, I had to actually do it and find that out. So with the courage from the fans and the immense sense of hope that they have given me, it's meant that I've just met the challenge, and I can't honestly say I feel capable of doing anything. But I've got to turn up and find out. So that's all I do. I just turn up and I make myself accessible and hope and pray and, you know, do all those things. I live a healthy life, and I think that's what has made a big difference. And I did recover from a car accident years ago, physically all the bones mended and all that. But recovering from a brain hemorrhage where you've had burst blood vessels, I had no idea whether diet would make a difference or not. And I reckon it's worth saying to people, look, feed yourself well, have a good diet, because maybe that's helped the brain cells realign themselves or whatever they've done. Because, I mean, I do lose a bit of my vocabulary sometimes. I search for words. I sometimes write the second letter of a word first, and a couple of things like that. And I've got to get good sleep, you know. So there's a few rules that I think all of us need to follow to lead a long life and to have a brain that sort of half functions, if not fully. But so far, so good. So I'm looking ahead to maybe more concert tours and, you know, maybe with everybody's blessing and God's blessing.
Well, a couple of years ago you were given the Order of Australia, which is quite an honour. Quite ironic that, you know, you're now rated AO after your name, the clean living, you know, vegetarian, early to bed.
I love it.
Yes, Judith Durham, AO.
Well done, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but what a great honour.
Yes, it is a great honour. It is, and it was interesting when we were made Australians of the Year, and when I was given the OAM even, I felt that it meant that I had to aspire to something that I hadn't already deserved. So that's what the effect of the AO is, because, you know, you think, well, now I've got to justify this incredible honour that's been bestowed, because people then look up to you and they want you to be an example. And I believe, you know, if I can inspire people, when you think my role models, one of my role models is the Queen, and she's still going. And I think, well, crikey, if she can keep going. And she's had this amazingly wholesome life. I used to follow how she dressed. If she had matching shoes and gloves, well, she'd be my fashion plate as well. So, you know, and somebody like Oprah Winfrey, for instance. There are quite a few people out there who set a really incredible example, so they can also inspire me to do the right thing. But I do stand by no alcohol, no drugs, you know, a wholesome life and a spiritual life and spiritual goals. They're important to me.
Which is why you've never been asked to join the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, maybe so. Mind you, I mean, you know, Daniel Johns asked me to sing a track on his album. So, look, you know, yes, but though you're spot on, actually. Yeah. I doubt very much if I'm going to be on tour with the Rolling Stones. But I wouldn't say no. It might make them aspire to a wholesome way of life. You never know.
Did you do the Daniel Johns song?
Yes. It's a song called English Garden. It was a bonus track on their... what do you call it, album? Straight Lines album?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
that was many years ago, the Silverchair record,
Yes, that's right, yes. So that was quite an amazing surprise, and I was very thrilled about that.
Yeah. We recently had a couple of new songs from the Seekers, Silver Threads and Golden Needles, and In My Life. Are there any more that have been recorded that we haven't heard? No,
not to my knowledge. I mean, that's not to say somebody might not surprise me, but as far as I know, that's all we've got. So they were very, very important, and especially because one of them, both of them were filmed, so they were the first film clips we'd done sort of from scratch to view them as clips. So that was a big thing for our 50th anniversary, and we were very glad that the fans enjoyed it. For our tour, we opened the show with both those, you know, so it was great to have it. Yeah, and it was lovely. One of them, In My Life, very philosophical, that Beatles song, and it gave us the opportunity to put some old footage together as our opening of our show. And that was very thought-provoking and took us right down memory lane ourselves. Yeah, so there's been some very special things that have come out of the fact that we've carried on for the extra 50 years sort of thing.
I want to ask you about one more song off here, Kaleidoscope, which is a Rod McKuen song. Rod only passed away a couple of weeks ago. Must have, well, tell me about that song. And, Rod was, I guess, developing as a songwriter like Elton John was at the time.
That's very true. I didn't know a lot about him. To me, he was an icon. And of course, he'd collaborated a lot with Jacques Brel. And so therefore, to me, I sort of felt like he was... I felt like I was down here and he was up there, if you know what I mean. But I did meet him. I do remember that... because I was doing the song, somebody took me around to his apartment. And I do actually remember the occasion. And of course, I absolutely love that song. And when I did the television show, which at that time was called Meet Judith Durham, it was a special, I had the opportunity to sing it in the studio with the children. And on the track, it's got some children singing backing vocals. Quite a few of the tracks on Climb Every Mountain actually have children in the background, so it's a thrill to hear it after all this time.
Yeah. Well, there's the album. The album is Climb Every Mountain, Judith Durham, a piece of history, finally, on CD for everyone to hear in amazing quality. Judith, always great to catch up with you and hear the many, many stories. And, of course, for anything we missed, check out the book.
Absolutely, check out the book. Graham Simpson wrote it. And, of course, check out my website and Facebook, because we always have all our snippets of news. And it's just been a joy to talk to you, Paul. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks for joining us here at Noise 11.